Hello, and welcome to the big interview here for International Investment. I'm delighted to welcome into Incisive Media Studios Richard Goodall, the CEO of Marlborough. Richard, welcome.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Fantastic. You've been in this role for how long now?
Less than a year.
Less than a year, which is, I think, is a real opportune time to have a chat. First off, tell me how it's going, and has it been everything that you imagined it was going to be when you decided to take the role of CEO?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, Marlborough's a great place. First things first. I think in terms of as a company, as the culture, the DNA of the firm is exceptional. So I'm hugely proud to lead the Marlborough business going forward. And I think so. If I put the DNA together within our growth aspirations, it becomes really quite exciting. So those two things together are really good. We're a private company. Private companies allow us to make decisions quickly. We can focus on what we're doing. I think we know the market space very well. We're entrepreneurial. And just generally, the year has gone. It's been a strange year with COVID, with the pandemic, trying to with staff not being in the offices, and then as we gradually return to a new normal, etc. But yeah, I mean I think there's great opportunities for us. A few things that we just need to focus on to improve where we are. But Marlborough as a brand, as a capability, as a relationship, I think we've got lots of opportunities for us in the marketplace that we want to aspire and to grow into.
Thank you very much. It's interesting, you've got offices across the UK, and you're now in the international space. Let's talk about that briefly. What are you bringing to the table to the international marketplace? Yeah,
so if you look at Marlborough as an entity, I think people know Marlborough by the world-class active management capability. We're good investment managers. So that's what you want an investment manager to be, an asset manager to manage the asset well. So I think that's the first where I'd start. But in the international space, I think whilst people are looking for, I would call them ingredients in terms of specific funds, what they're also looking for is solutions. So a multi-asset capability, a multi-asset solution, and how perhaps that can link with a platform. So we have multi-asset capability that we're able to provide through our Dublin range of funds, but also we have a particularly strong relationship and engagement with Novia Global. So the two of those coming together, I think that's for us quite exciting. So a new world of technology through the platform with an investment solution that has its if you like engagement through world-class active management capability. I think that really works well. So one, technology, two, investment management capability.
Fantastic. We've just had the Middle East forum today. You took part in that. Why is Dubai an important region for you, and what other international regions are you looking to have some traction in?
Yeah, sure. So I mean, I think you mentioned it earlier, Gary, but Dubai, just the buzz of Dubai, the buzz of the Middle East, dare I say the cricket that's just, the 2020, etc., that we were just pipped at the post. But the reality is that, Dubai is such a hub that we want to be part of. And I think because also not only about the hub, but also about the change that's going on in that marketplace. So I think there's lots of opportunity for us to expand our relationships, to engage with advisory firms, to support them through that change, and perhaps even provide some learning from the UK into that space. We talk funds, we talk investment management, we talk, as I mentioned earlier, platform. We also talk about authorised corporate director in terms of creation of funds. So there's a breadth of discussion really, and that I think is ripe for when a market changes. And I see Dubai as that market that changes, and the Middle East. I see also other markets, other opportunities for us as well. So what we want to do is to focus on a particular, 2 or 3 particular areas. But Dubai is one. I'd also suggest Europe is another, in terms of the opportunities that Europe might be able to provide for us. Because again, these changes are evolving, in terms of increased regulation, putting the client at the heart of everything that we're thinking about, new innovative investment solutions, better use of technology, platforms, all of that, if you like, that debate, that learning experiences, we'd love to share with existing partners and new partners.
Fantastic and really good answer. Tell me a little bit about the thinking behind the slight rebrand, the fact that it's Marlborough now.
Yeah, sure.
What was the thinking behind that?
Well, we've tried to simplify the business essentially. So if you look at the overall arching group, we've got Marlborough Group Holdings Limited, and we've got 2 fundamental businesses. We have an ACD business, which is called IFSL, and we have an investment management business. Now, we had 2 ACDs and 2 investment managers, so it starts to get complicated. So let's simplify it, and then what we'll have is 1 ACD, IFSL, and 1 investment business, Marlborough. And that will provide the best bits of both, if you like, coming together within the Marlborough Group.
I like that. That's a good answer and a very nice soundbite, very succinctly put. Thank you for that. I'm interested, this is a big interview, so I'm interested in you. What's your background? And feel free to take a couple of minutes with this one. I mean, what I'm trying to say to you is sum up your entire career in 2 minutes, which is a crazy thing for me to ask. How do you do that?
Yeah.
But, feel free to expand.
Yeah.
But in terms of, look, if somebody's never met you before, sure, they don't know who you are for whatever reason. Tell us about your background. This is the first question. What's your background? How did you get into financial services?
Sure. So I mean, I shocked myself earlier today because I was just thinking, right, I'm sure Gary's going to ask about the background, etc. So I was just working it through. And do you know what? And I hope you're going to say that you don't look it, but I've been in financial services for 40 years next year.
You don't look it. I get it again quickly.
Thank you. So
40 years.
So
really?
40 years
wow.
of I've always been in financial services. 40 years of work. They didn't say, well, okay. So how do you deconstruct that in terms of that 40 years? And 10 years has been with life companies. So I started with life cos. Learnt my trade with life cos, if you like, and then I moved from there into an advisory role. So of providing advice to the end consumer, which I absolutely loved. It's really good, and providing advice and then running businesses that did so. Then I moved out of that providing advice, and for the next 20 years I've been focused on technology and investment management. So if you like, I see the first. If I focus on those 3 parts, the first was around education, learning of the market, the DNA, if you like, and that was around the insurance companies. Then as an advisor, you just really got to understand the impact and the value that you're providing, that the industry, or the profession, as I like to call it, provides to end consumers. And I think that's really key in all of our decisions. But then for the next 20 years, what I've done is focus on technology. So the things that are coming down the track that make a difference to either providers or to the advisory market, that helps from a technology perspective and, of course, from an investment management perspective. So if you like, Marlborough, after 40 years, there's a phrase, magnus opus, which basically means just bringing all of that capability together. So I hope that the experiences that I've had over 40 years frame what we might be able to do over the next 5 or 10 years, if you like.
No, absolutely. Just thinking of the changes that you've seen. I've been in the industry myself for a shocking amount of years. When I look back, my first ever job was as a tied agent for Refuge Assurance.
Yes,
they don't exist now.
Yeah.
So I was a tied agent, and I was in insurance, collecting the money.
Yes.
And then pulling out a policy document and just saying sign here and filling it in with the client. This is before the first fact find, one-page fact find came out.
Yes.
I've looked at the way this industry's changed, and from those days, and it's like night and day, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a completely different world.
Well, some things are, and some things have stayed the same.
Right.
You know,
yeah.
so some things have changed. Obviously, the use of technology, those sorts of things. But what's not changed? Well, it's about people. It's about relationships. It's about trust. It's about putting that end consumer at the heart of everything that you think about. So there's a number of things that I think haven't changed. You know, my first job, you talk about refuge, I worked for the General Accident Fire and Life Assurance Corporation back in 1982, you know, and that's where I started. So in the morning I used to get the files out as a young one, and then in the afternoon I used to put them away, and that was pretty much the, you know, so that was the start of the career, if you like. But I wouldn't change it for the world, you know, because those 10 years in Lifeco, you see the mechanics of how things work for benefit, and also if you say, well, actually, in another company, maybe I wouldn't do it the same. So I think these experiences change. But I think that the biggest issue for me is just the change of technology. You know, the technology, and also, dare I say, the shift in relationships. You know, because, you know, product providers paid a commission to an advisor. Polarisation just shifted that. And of course, it's back to 2012 in the UK, but obviously with you know, in the Middle East, that's you know, evolving and changing as we're talking today. But in 2012, that whole focus of an independent advisor being on the side of the client in their terms of business, I think was very, very important. And then obviously commissions changed and went to advice charging, etc. So there was a lot of change that was going on there, and I think the partners that supported them best are those that have grown over time. And that, for me, is what a great opportunity for Marlborough to focus in these particular markets where there is change, where we believe that we might be able to support, and then, if you like, get our hands dirty with the relationships and really help support, grow businesses and grow the relationships.
It's great to look back, and I was just thinking then one of the questions that I hadn't planned to ask you this, but looking back throughout your career, now you're the leader of a great company, great brand, really well known in the UK, really well known internationally, and a growing brand. You're CEO and you're leading from the front now. What's your leadership style, and how important has it been to have been an advisor, have worked with Lifeco and worked on the tech side? Using all of that experience, how much do you use that in your day-to-day role as CEO?
Yeah, well, it's I think experience is helpful. You know, just because it was the right answer previously doesn't necessarily mean it will be the right answer going forward. But experience does help. When I first became a manager, I went through some business school engagement, and that lasted for 7 or 8 years. So I then came out with an MBA. So the interesting thing is when I was an advisor, I was a young advisor and then wanted to qualify to prove capability. When I became a manager and a director, I wanted to do the same. So I think there's an element of experience is important. Qualifications is also important because it takes you away and then assesses, gives you theories to think about, etc. But then lastly, just surround yourself with really good people. You know, I'd like to be in a situation whereby the exec team are just so strong, so capable, and you know, that allows us to progress and move forward. So for me, it's about imperfect people making perfect teams and finding the success of each of them to bring together. And for me, it's about tone, it's about culture, and it's about setting an expectation or an ambition level that stretches. And if we can have that aspirational level to achieve, but with the support of the individuals to grow, then I think that's what we're looking to do. So I don't know if I've answered your question fully.
I think you have, yeah. And, I mean, if you had to sum yourself up or your leadership style in we used the 3 words before. Don't use the 3 words necessarily. Let's look. If you had to sum your leadership style, how would you sum that up?
Yeah, supportive, engaging, challenging, aspirational.
First question was, you've been in this job for less than a year. How's it gone? It kind of leads me to look to the future, look at 2022 and beyond. What are your aspirations for the company? And let's look in the international space for a second, and then I'll come back to you in a moment, and we'll talk about the UK market.
Sure.
So what are your aspirations and hopes for Marlborough in 2022?
Sure. I'd have one objective, perhaps two, but one objective is to be close to leading firms that we can support. If we had a focus that if you like, if behind Marlborough is capability of investments, of governance, of controls, of entrepreneurship, etc. If that's what Marlborough is about, how can we take that to more advisory firms and practices and share our experiences and perhaps get connection? If there were a second, it's about reinforcing the relationships that we already have. So for me, it's about doing the right things, really enhancing and supporting the brand that we have. So doing the right things well, but then tell people about it, engage, be on our front foot, you know. So that for me is really important, because I think we've got things to share. So why don't we do that?
Really good answer. I like that. And there's been a few points today, actually, a few nice user-friendly sound bites that are out there that just ring home through across the board throughout life. You know, it's quite a simple industry, this, really, isn't it? It's about give good service, give good advice, and and look after people. It's about relationships, isn't it?
I think you're exactly right. And the reality is, there's more and more requirement for advice to be provided. You know, if you look in the international space, the number of advisors, you know, if you only go back 5 years to now, you know, the professionalism, the quality of the advisors now, the complexities of the marketplace, it just all leads to a requirement for bespoke and professional quality advice. But if the advisor does that, he or she wants to look back and say, okay, who's supporting me though? Let's make sure in the way that we've been able to undertake that review, we have partners that absolutely support us so we can deliver to the clients that we hold dear. So I think, it is a simple, you know, say what you do, deliver what you say you're going to do, look after the client and deliver on your promises, as I've said. So I think, you know, it is, but sometimes we make it more complicated than it needs to be, perhaps, Gary.
I think that's something, sometimes as an industry, and myself as being part of the media, being part of the industry in that respect, I sometimes overcomplicate questions, you know, when really it's a straightforward, you know, short question. We're always using acronyms, we're always using those in this industry, and we use a lot of jargon. I think it's important to get past that, isn't it?
Yeah, I think you're right. Absolutely. And I'm going to just use another acronym though. But you know, in terms of, I think advisors are focused on centralised investment propositions. That's CIP. And if I may, I just sort of move that around in terms of particularly in the markets that we've talked about internationally. And for me, it's a compelling investment partner. Same CIP, but what we want is we want the investment to be absolutely first class. But from that investment, what we want is a partner that absolutely supports us. And if we do both of those things and we engage then with the market, it becomes compelling. So I think that for me, a CIP, where people talk about a centralised investment proposition, I now see it as a compelling investment partner. And that's what I'd like us to be and to be seen as we go into the international market.
Fantastic. Richard Goodall, thank you for your time today. I've got one final question for you, just a short one. What do you do for fun outside of the industry? This is the big interview, so what do you do for fun that's not financial services? Yeah,
so I'm lucky enough to be able to still play some sport, which I'm pleased about, but my tennis is a little bit slower than it used to be. So a little bit of tennis, a little bit of swimming. I'm lucky enough to have a wife and a family, so that is important to me as well. You know, and it's interesting to balance that with work, if that makes sense, with Zooms and with Teams calls, etc. But family is really important to me, you know, I live on the coast, so walks and just being by the water I really enjoy, but also a little bit of sport as well. So all of those connected, I'm pleased enough to be able to say that work's fun, but also outside of work there's enough to keep me interested in and balance the two together.
Richard Goodall, thanks for your time today.
Thank you.